Here's an article I wrote in an attempt to encourage those who are already in school, those who are contemplating whether or not to go through the education system, and to counter the argument that school is a scam altogether to the degree that I can. Here it is. To the student who is struggling with studies or doesn't yet understand the logic behind the necessity of going to school and having to go through the straining process of studying, including 50% of what you may never come across in your existence, this message is for you. First, I want you to inscribe the following quotes on the walls of your mind. We go to school to learn how to learn. Yes, that's it. That's the essence of the whole education enterprise, because life is a continuous learning process. That is why the human species has over time evolved to take its young ones, because what better time is there to be trained, indoctrinate and equip them mentally and sometimes physically with the hope of optimizing their chances at life. Even King Yeshua, when he walked the earth, he went through the education system as well, although in an archaic manner. If it weren't important, then he wouldn't have, because there are 100 other things he could have done with his time. Here are some counter arguments that might be on your mind. 1. That school is not for everyone. Yes, that's true. School isn't for everyone. I mean, we are all unique. Matter of fact, there are people whose lives the education system has ruined because they kind of had the inbuilt configuration that is just enough for them to live, which the education system's apparatus came in conflict with, and the effect left them devastated. However, such people are few compared to the general population. So are you going to base your life on the probability that you might be one of such people, or bet on the greater odds of getting educated? That's a food for thought. 2. That there are PhD holders working 5 levels down the hierarchy of an illiterate billionaire's company. That's correct, but the same is true vice versa, and it also depends on how you measure success. Success means different things for each one of us, although most of us use money as a marker because of, obviously, its high efficiency. But I tell you, even at the level I am now financially, I have realized that making more money doesn't necessarily fill the void in man. That's by the way. 3. That some people go through the education system and come off worse than they were before they went in. Well, it depends on whether the individual truly went to school. You must have heard of the biblical verse that says, "Not all who call me Lord, Lord will enter into the kingdom of heaven." You go to school, but are you genuinely schooling? Also, it depends on the kind of school you attend, because not all organizations truly do what their name implies they do, and the quality of the education you are getting is a factor as well. Additionally, it depends on whether you are in alignment with your natural abilities in school. As we all know, there are many career paths available, and you are supposed to follow the one that suits you best, not the one you are asked to or other people you know follow. Otherwise, you'll struggle unnecessarily and maybe end up coming out with nothing. 4. That the education system makes your mind dormant and subtly trains you to become a slave. Well, I would say that has much to do with your perspective. If you still harbor some sort of resentment in your heart for our past colonial masters and everything associated with them, then you think that way because they are the ones who introduced the education system into our culture in the form it largely is now. I mean, I see CEOs, tech giants, and politicians who have come through this same hypothetically malevolent education system. 5. That the curriculums that are taught in school are not practical in reality. That's not entirely true. For example, indeed, you've never had to use the algebraic equation you were taught in grade 6. However, you left that class with the ability to endure and solve life's equation-like problems because you solved and failed that maths over and over again until maybe you got it right. And you've been subconsciously using the problem-solving skills since then without even realizing it. I hope I've been able to convince you that school is not a scam, at least not in its entirety. In conclusion, I reaffirm the belief that education is key. Not saying it's the only key. There could be others that are unbeknownst to me, but it is no doubt one key. I anticipate your feedbacks. See you on the next one.